exclusive focus on the youth members from both the Indian diaspora as well as that from India. The Indian diaspora, consisting of millions worldwide, showcases the strength of Indian culture and values. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji often highlights the vital role played by the Indian diaspora in promoting India's interests and culture all across the globe. During the 15th PBD in 2019, he had specifically told the Indian diaspora that, I quote, "Your contributions to the nation-building process are unparalleled. The pride of being an Indian resonates globally, and you are our strongest ambassadors," unquote. Youth members of the Indian diaspora today are making huge strides in innovation, technology, and creativity. Honorable Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi ji, had distinctly noted that the Indian diaspora contributes to various sectors globally. The youth must connect with the roots and leverage this influence to promote India's interests and values. India boasts of one of the world's largest youth populations that reaps enormous demographic dividends. The country has made impressive strides in technology leadership, and the government is increasing efforts to equip with relevant skills through the Pravasi Kaushal Vikas Yojana, a collaboration between the Ministry of External Affairs and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Youth members from India and those from the Indian community abroad possess the skills and the talent to play a crucial role in shaping a global inclusive development agenda rooted in India's traditions and cultural harmony and cohesive values. They therefore have the potential to contribute significantly to the realization of a new, resilient and Viksit Bharat. Government of India has consistently promoted those diaspora engagement programs that focus on the youth, like the Know India program. So the PIO youth of today has the opportunity to imbibe a more comprehensive and holistic perspective of India's rich history and cultural heritage, and are inspired to continue towards strengthening their ties with their ethnic motherland, that is India, Bharat. I am confident that the Youth Pravasi Bharatiya Divas today will facilitate exchange of ideas and present invaluable insights from diverse stakeholders on the role that the youth of India and those from the Indian diaspora have been playing in our globalized world to emerge as natural leaders, and what should be the future roadmap for them and relevant stakeholders. The youth of India and that from the Indian diaspora will undoubtedly play a crucial role in shaping the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and for fostering human-centric globalization. Thank you. Jai Odisha, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Namaskar.
Thank you, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Shri Pavitra Margarita ji, for the welcome address. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the opening remarks, I would humbly request Honorable Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya ji.
अठारहवें प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस के अवसर पर आज के कार्यक्रम में हमारे बीच में उपस्थित हमारे विदेश मंत्री आदरणीय जयशंकर जी, राज्य के यशस्वी मुख्यमंत्री आदरणीय मोहन चरण मांझी जी, हमारे विदेश राज्य मंत्री पवित्रा मार्गेरिटा जी, कीर्तिवर्धन सिंह जी, मेरी सहयोगी मंत्री आदरणीय रक्षा निखिल खड़से जी, हमारे न्यूज़ वीक यूएसए के सीईओ देव प्रगाट जी, उपस्थित सभी प्रवासी भाइयों बहनों और युवा दोस्तों, आज का अवसर बहुत महत्वपूर्ण अवसर है। प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस में जब हम 18वें प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस मना रहा है, उस दिवस को डायस्पोरा कंट्रीब्यूशंस टू विकसित भारत की थीम पर तैयार करा गया है। विकसित भारत ये प्रधानमंत्री जी का दिया गया लक्ष्य है। जब देश आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव वर्ष मना रहा था, उस वक्त प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 25 साल के अपने रोड मैप देते हुए 2047 में जब देश आजादी का शताब्दी वर्ष मनाता हो, तब भारत को विकसित भारत बनाने का लक्ष्य रखा है। और ये विकसित भारत बनाने में हमारे युवाओं की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका कैसी हो सकती है, उसके लिए भी अपने विचार रखे हैं। आज जब 9 जनवरी 2025 है, 110 साल पहले महात्मा गांधी यंग एज में अफ्रीका से हिंदुस्तान परत आए थे। जब अफ्रीका में वो रहते थे, तब उन्होंने वहाँ काले गोरे के भेदभाव को नाबूद करने के लिए एक बहुत बड़ा आंदोलन चलाया था। वहाँ से बहुत कुछ सीखे थे, समझे थे, और ये वहाँ का अनुभव को लेके हिंदुस्तान परत आए। जब वो हिंदुस्तान आया, तब उन्होंने आजादी की लड़त का एक रूपरेखा भी तैयार करा, क्योंकि वहाँ से वो बहुत कुछ सीख के आए थे। और ये दिन को याद करते हुए प्रतिवर्ष हम प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस जब मनाते हैं, तब हमारे प्रवासी भारतीय देश के विकास में अपना कंट्रीब्यूशन कैसे दे, देश के साथ कैसे जुड़े, उसके लिए भी प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें कई बार अपना संदेश दिया है। जब आप आते हैं प्रवासी भारतीय के रूप में, तब आपने जिस देश में काम करा है, वहाँ का अनुभव आपके साथ है, वहाँ के बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस आपने देखी है, वहाँ से जो कुछ श्रेष्ठ है, जो वहाँ से आप समझे हैं, ये चीज़ों को हिंदुस्तान में लाके हम विकसित भारत के लिए कैसे हमारा कंट्रीब्यूशन करें, वो भी हम सुनिश्चित कर सकते हैं। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें संदेश दिया कि हमें विकसित भारत बनाना है, देश को आगे ले जाना है। तो हम कैसे ले जाएंगे? देश को विकसित बनाने के लिए सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास मंत्र को लेके हमें आगे बढ़ना है। हमारी शक्तियों को संयोजना है। आज हिंदुस्तान एक ऐसा देश है दुनिया में, और हिंदुस्तान में सबसे ज्यादा यूथ इंडिया में है। 20 में से 13 इंडियन सिटीजन युवा है, जिसकी एज बिलो 35 है, और सारे देश की एवरेज एज 29 ईयर है। ये हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड है। उसको हम कैसे एनकेज करें ताकि हम देश को विकसित भारत बना सके। मैंने देश के युवाओं की शक्ति को देखा है। जब देश में कोविड क्राइसिस आई, उस वक्त मोदी जी ने मुझे भारत सरकार के हेल्थ मिनिस्टर के रूप में दायित्व दिया था। जब वैक्सीन की रिसर्च की बात आई, मैंने देखा हमारे युवा साइंटिस्ट ने लीड करा, मेहनत करी, और होल्ड वायरस से बना हुआ विश्व का पहला और एकलौता वैक्सीन बनाने में हम सफल रहे थे। इतना ही नहीं, लेकिन हमने वैक्सीन तो बना लिया, लेकिन वैक्सीनेशन अभियान चलाना था। जब वैक्सीनेशन अभियान चलाना था तब देश के हमारे युवा डॉक्टर्स, हमारे युवा नर्स, हमारे युवा पैरामेडिक स्टाफ घर घर गए, दूर सुदूर हिमालयन रेंज में गए, रेगिस्तान, राजस्थान के रेगिस्तान के क्षेत्र में 5-5, 10-10 किलोमीटर चल के गए और 220 करोड़ डोज लगाने में हम सक्सेस रहे ताकि हम कोविड क्राइसिस के सामने जीत पाए। उसमें मेरे देश के युवाओं की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका रही। विकसित भारत के लिए हमने देश के युवाओं को अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले, राष्ट्रीय प्रवाह में अपने कंट्रीब्यूशन बेस्ट कर पाए। मोदी जी ने कहा कि विकसित भारत बनाना है तो हमें 140 करोड़ की जनता को एक साथ में लेके चलना होगा, देश के युवाओं को अपॉर्चुनिटी देना होगा। आज जिस 18 साल के युवा है वो 25 साल के बाद विकसित भारत के नागरिक बनेंगे। उस वक्त उनके सपनों का भारत कैसा है, कैसा बनाना चाहिए, वो कैसा विकसित भारत चाहते हैं, उसका विजन भी विकसित भारत में समाहित होना चाहिए। और इसलिए ही प्रधानमंत्री जी ने एक नया इनिशिएटिव लिया। देश में 11-12 जनवरी को हम यूथ फेस्टिवल मनाते हैं, लेकिन मोदी जी ने कहा कि इस बार हम यूथ फेस्टिवल एक अलग तरीके से मनाएंगे। हर बार देश के कोई सिटी में यूथ फेस्टिवल के माध्यम से देश के युवा एकत्रित होते थे, संवाद करते थे, लेकिन इस बार मोदी जी ने कहा कि देश के युवा विकसित भारत के लिए क्विज कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट करें। ऐसे 30 लाख युवाओं ने विकसित भारत क्विज कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट करा। उसमें से 2 लाख युवाओं को आइडेंटिफाई करा और उसको 10 सेगमेंट में विकसित भारत के लिए ऐसे लिखने के लिए कहा। 2 करोड़ में से 60,000 युवाओं ने लेटर लिख के दिया और ये लेटर का असेसमेंट करा गया। उसमें से 9,000 युवाओं को विकसित भारत कैसा होना चाहिए, वो कैसा विकसित भारत चाहते हैं, युवा विकसित भारत में कैसा कौन सा कंट्रीब्यूशन कर सकता है, उसके लिए प्रेजेंटेशन दिया और देश के 3,000 युवा 11-12 जनवरी को प्रधानमंत्री जी के सामने 2047 में भारत को विकसित बनाने के लिए अपना विचार साझा करेंगे। तब जाके देश विकसित भारत बन पाएगा। उसमें युवाओं की भागीदारी को सुनिश्चित करने के लिए मोदी जी ने अहम कदम उठाए हैं और साथ में कहा कि युवाओं को हमें अपॉर्चुनिटी देनी है, बेस्ट एजुकेशन देना है, उसकी शक्तियों का उपयोग करना है। उनकी शक्ति देश में लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट के लिए कैसे हो और पॉलिटिकल लीडरशिप डेवलप करने के लिए 1 लाख युवाओं को तैयार करने का सपना भी प्रधानमंत्री जी ने रखा है और उस दिशा में काम करना चालू करा है। आप सब प्रवासी भारतीय के रूप में जब देश में आए हैं तब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने हमें कई बार कहा कि आप इस कार्यक्रम में भी आते हैं, उनके अलावा भी आपका रिश्ता है, आपका परिवार है, आपका विलेज है, आपका स्टेट है। जब जब आप हिंदुस्तान आओगे, भारत आओगे, तब वहां के लोगों को भी हिंदुस्तान में, भारत में लेके आना, देश को दिखाना, देश की डाइवर्सिटी की पहचान कराना और वहां जो ज्ञान है वो भी लाना है, वहां का अनुभव भी लाना है और हमारे देश के साथ उसको साझा करना है। मैं मानता हूं कि अभी यही समय है और मोदी जी ने कहा सही समय है, यही समय है, सही समय है। हम सब लोग भारतवासी, 35 मिलियन भारतवासी जो हमारे प्रवासी भारतीय है, हम सब लोग देश के लिए, भारत को विकसित बनाने के लिए अपनी अपनी तरह से, अपने से जो भी हो सके वो देश के लिए कंट्रीब्यूट करके हम 2047 में भारत को विकसित भारत के रूप में दुनिया के सामने लाए। यही आप सबसे अपेक्षा है। आप सबको मेरी ओर से हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद माननीय युवा कार्यक्रम एवं खेल मंत्री भारत सरकार डॉक्टर मनसुख मांडविया जी, आपके संबोधन के लिए, आपके उद्बोधन के लिए। माननीय मंत्री जी ने विकसित भारत का जिक्र किया और 18वें प्रवासी भारतीय दिवस का थीम भी है डायस्पोरा's contribution to a विकसित भारत। Ladies and gentlemen, our Honorable Youth Affairs and Sports Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya ji. Our guest of honor of Youth Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is Mr. Dev Pragar ji. He is from USA. He is President, CEO and co-founder of Newsweek. Dr. Dev Pragar ji was born in India and he grew up in United Kingdom. He did his bachelor's in computer sciences and PhD in mobile internet. He also holds an executive program diploma from Harvard Business School. Dr. Dev Pragar's leadership has resulted in Newsweek reaching over 100 million monthly readers and achieving profitability. May I request Dr. Dev Pragar ji to kindly address the August gathering. Dr. Dev Pragar ji.
Dr. S. Jaishankar, Honorable External Affairs Minister, Dr. Mansukh Mandaviya, Honorable Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Shri Mohan Charan Maji, Honorable Chief Minister of Odisha, Shri Pabitra Margarita, Honorable Minister of State for External Affairs, Ms. Raksha Nikhil Kadse, Honorable Minister of State for Youth Affairs and Sports, distinguished guests, and to the reason for the significant gathering today, my dear young global Indians, Namaste. A very good morning to you all. It is an absolute honor to address you all at this historic 18th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, a platform that exemplifies the strength and unity of our Indian diaspora, whose achievements continue to inspire and elevate India's standing globally. It is a great privilege to be in this forum and in the company of your previous honorees, leaders of the global Indian diaspora that has shaped and is shaping so much of our common future. My story is quintessentially American. The striving immigrant with a dream, pulling off a business turnaround of an iconic American brand against impossible odds in New York City, the city that never sleeps. Today, as a family, we are proud American citizens. Yet, it is also a quintessentially Indian story. In fact, as many Americans of Indian descent will attest, the Indian heritage did much to make the American success possible. So let's begin with my Indian story. I was born in 1984 in the South Indian city of Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. I am Indian by birth, heritage, and culture. I spent the first 11 years of my life here in India. The memories and culture of this land are deeply engraved in me. Indian food is my go-to comfort food. My parents emigrated from India when I was 11 years old, briefly to the Middle East before settling in London, England. My father is an IIT graduate who became a professor. Education played a major role in our family. Like many from the Indian community, I obtained an engineering degree, followed it with a PhD from King's College, London, whose current president and vice chancellor, Satish Kapoor, who's a good friend of mine, is also of Indian origin. My first stint in media was in London, where I learned the nuances of digital media and the advertising business. It was also in London, a melting pot of the world, where I met my future wife, who's from Czech Republic. For me, a globalized world is not just a matter of corporate strategy. At home, it can lead to delicious but often very confusing dinner menus. My American story really begins in 2016 when I moved to New York to lead and then own Newsweek, the storied American publication that had fallen on hard times. After decades of global dominance as a news magazine, Newsweek had been through 4 owners in 11 years, including through the hands of some of the biggest names in American publishing. After a decade of near bankruptcies, fire sales, and bailouts, the rescue of Newsweek was dismissed as a fool's errand. The business logic of a turnaround did appear to be foolish, but I refused to accept it. Newsweek had been part of the fabric of the American life for nearly a century. It was worth that was perhaps a little bit easier for me to see as an Indian-born immigrant from a culture where past and present connect more seamlessly. Then there were the rest. It'd be a far cry from standing here. I'd have faced both financial and reputational ruin. No project this daunting could be undertaken without the guiding light of a higher purpose. For that inspiration, we again turn to the history and heritage of the brand. Newsweek had lost its way not just because of technological disruptions, but because it had strayed from its roots as a magazine for all Americans. It had turned away from the values and viewpoints of our vast and diverse country and taken shelter among the coastal elites of America. The magazine's relevance, credibility, and audience had crumbled along with its financial health. We resolved to rebuild Newsweek on the values of nonpartisan journalism, to speak to and listen to people across the political and cultural spectrum, and to welcome diverse voices in the pursuit of finding common ground. We did this not just out of the reverence for the past, but because we believed it was the right thing to do for America's future. Deeply divided, Americans were talking past each other. The media was part of the problem, not the solution. The pursuit of common ground and fair journalism was good for democracy, good for America, and good for the world at large. I must confess, I probably will not be standing here today if the right thing to do hadn't turned out to be also the profitable thing to do. Newsweek's audience has grown more than 10-fold across all platforms since we embarked on this journey. Our demographics today perfectly represent the cross-section of America, with a third of the audience identifying as left-leaning, a third as right-leaning, and a third as moderate. At a time when Americans' trust in media has tumbled to an all-time low, YouGov's Trust in Media Monitor shows trust in Newsweek is growing across the political spectrum. It may not be a coincidence that Newsweek was named the fastest growing English language news publisher in the world last year. The embrace of tradition and heritage was only part of the story. Being an outsider to American media helped me to think about problems differently. I became an owner of Newsweek at the time when billionaires were buying storied legacy media brands to save them from collapse. Those were philanthropic investments lauded by newsrooms everywhere, who now have time to regroup and rebuild. Contrary to that, I was not born into wealth. I had to work my way up. And that turned out to be fortuitous for Newsweek. We committed ourselves to building a profitable publishing business, and in doing so, we regrouped and rebuilt the brand, the platform, and the content under intense pressure. The pressure paid off. Now those billionaires owners have run out of patience and are seeking to turn profit. Yet Newsweek is profitable, growing, and investing inside our newsroom and outside it. There is an irony in this story that it took an Indian immigrant to embrace American capitalism to rescue an iconic American brand. There were other innovations too. Many Indian immigrants to the United States end up in the Silicon Valley. I borrowed many ideas from the Valley. We run Newsweek on OKRs, a business management framework that made tech giants like Intel and Google so successful. We turned our journalism's mission into products, including Fairness Meter and Trust Meter. Others are beginning to follow our footsteps. My engineers' instincts have set us on a path to build a platform business, leveraging our global reach and growing trust to create B2B products that complement our consumer strategy. And AI is at the heart of everything we do today. Yes, I know this feeds the stereotype. This is exactly what you would expect an Indian engineering guy to do with a 92-year-old print brand. Yet we are thriving in print too. Our print edition is profitable, published more frequently than any other American newsweekly. I was humbled when two Harvard Business School professors wrote a case study on my work in turning around Newsweek a few years ago. Today, my leadership and turnaround of Newsweek are taught at the esteemed Harvard Business School to many aspiring business leaders. As some of you may know, the dean at the Harvard Business School, Shrikant Dattar, also a good friend, is from India as well. So are many distinguished professors at that school. There is another unexpected concomitant of my Indian-inspired success story. Newsweek's transition has positioned it to offer the American public a fresh perspective on the rise of India. Newsweek is a global brand with a proud and deep American roots. India has its many problems and challenges, and we are committed to chronicling them fairly for our American audience. That is core to our mission. But we all know that problems and challenges are only part of the Indian story. There are also enormous opportunities, astonishing innovations, tales of courage and unimaginable progress, and history-making breakthroughs. Then there are also common democratic values and increasingly shared geopolitical interests between our two countries. Our commitment to fairly chronicling every story from every perspective gives Newsweek a unique opportunity to tell the whole story of modern India to an American and global public that understands little about the rising global giant. As we prepare the next chapter of the Newsweek story, you can see that my story is uniquely American and also uniquely Indian at the same time. I must warn you though, that it's not unique after all. An American company with an Indian origin CEO is no longer a particularly unusual phenomenon. There are so many of us that much ink is spilled in academia and media on what could possibly be so special about CEOs of Indian heritage. The editors of Newsweek have started reporting on this subject too. One of them shared an anecdote from his notes. There was a time that if you were Indian, you could not become a CEO. Now, you're more likely to become a CEO if you are Indian. There are many factors at play here and far too many to recount, including hard work, talent, a devotion to education, and the fact that for decades, India had sent many of its brightest minds out into the world. This phenomenon may not continue for much longer as the next generation chooses to remain here and build India. But let me offer one observation from my relatively humble experience. As an Indian-born immigrant to the United States, I'm able to see and adapt to the very best in both societies. For me, both cultures and systems represent glasses that are well more than half full. The optimism and resilience of these two great nations helped me write this new chapter in Newsweek's storied history in a globalized world. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my story. It's a real honor and privilege to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dev Pragarji, for gracing us with your kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor, Dr. Dev Pragarji. And now may I have the privilege of inviting Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankarji, and request sir for the address. Sir, please.
Somebody is left. For sure? Yeah.
ओडिशा के माननीय मुख्यमंत्री श्री मोहन चरण मांझी जी, मेरे कैबिनेट के साथी डॉक्टर मनसुख मांडविया जी, हमारे गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर डॉक्टर देव प्रकाश जी, हमारे राज्य मंत्री श्री कीर्ति वर्धन सिंह जी, श्रीमती रक्षा निखिल खाडसे जी, श्री पवित्र मार्गरीटा जी, नमस्कार, जय जगन्नाथ. I am very pleased to welcome you all to the Youth Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2025 in Bhubaneswar today. Now you all know that it is customary to hold a conclave of our younger generation as part of the PBD celebrations. The thinking behind that is one of recognizing the special contribution that young minds make at home and abroad. And indeed, in connecting them more effectively for mutual good. At a time when so many key developments in the world are being shaped by this younger generation, whether we talk of AI or EV, innovation or startups, space or drones, sports, chess, cricket, there is all the more reason to do so. Friends, at home, we have just started our journey towards Viksit Bharat in the Amrit Kal. This is an endeavor that is very much about the future generation. After all, it is in this period that they will come to the front ranks of our society and lead our nation. A large part of our efforts is to give the right motivation to the younger generation to accelerate their efforts. While development itself is a very complex task, it becomes much easier when we are confident that nothing is beyond us. I still recall some time ago an observation by a famous Indian badminton player, P.V. Sindhu, on why Prime Minister Modi is a youth icon. She summed it up as his attitude, which moved the nation from chalta hai to badal sakta hai to hoga kaise nahi. Indeed, It is this very spirit, which has driven our achievements in recent years. When confronted by the COVID pandemic, India demonstrated a remarkable resilience and strong recovery thereafter. And I remember working with Mansukh Bhai as Health Minister during that period. The very country that was predicted to go under ended up supplying vaccines and medicines to the entire world. A different but equally telling example is what we see in the realm of space, where there is a growing competition internationally. Our Chandrayaan-3 landing, the Aditya L1 observatory, and the proposed Gaganyaan mission are powerful inspirations. In a digital era, the scale of UPI transactions speaks volumes, both of our infrastructure and of our mindset. The new India, with 90,000 startups and 100+ unicorns, has calling cards like Drone Didi, Atal Tinkering Labs, hackathons, green hydrogen mission, or nano fertilizers. Friends, ambitious visions need strong foundations to be realized. Our collective prospects are no exception to that rule. Here again, it is critical to invest in our youth in order to achieve their full potential. Many of you would be familiar with various campaigns and programs to develop India undertaken since 2014 under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra